This interview coming up is, I believe, my fifth interview. It's with a friend of mine called Matt, and he's just a few offices down from me. Um, since he's joined, I've seen his recruitment agency grow, and I kind of wanted to just find out what he puts his success down to. I wanted to find out what made him get into it in the first place, what his experience was, and where he sees the agency going in the future. And if anybody wants to start their own agency, what advice he would give to those people. So if that's something that's of any interest to you, then carry on watching. Cheers. Okay, Matt, thanks for joining me. So what is your background in recruitment and the particular area of recruitment that you specialise in?
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on the show, Ben. Really do appreciate it. So my background is in technology, IT recruitment. So it's something I've done now for 17 years, believe it or not, first starting a long time ago for a big FTSE 250 recruitment agency, worked there for a number of years and then left to join a smaller startup as employee number 11 and then helped grow that company to just over 300 people, which ended up selling a couple of months ago. So the areas I cover within IT used to vary across the board, so it'd be everything from developers to testers to project managers, but in more recent years it's focused specifically on areas around data, digital and cloud. So a lot of the kind of hot ticket stuff clients are doing now, moving their systems into the cloud, whether it's Amazon Web Services or Azure. Those are the sorts of areas I focus on, and I also do a lot of work around data science and machine learning.
Why did you want to start your own recruitment agency, and how does it compare to working for somebody else's recruitment agency?
Right, so what made me start my own recruitment agency? Truth be told, I didn't want to start my own recruitment agency. I was in a company or working for a company in London where I'd been there for 18 months, and I think when COVID hit, it was a classic example of, the world was hit by this completely unknown thing. Everyone was panicking. Unfortunately, I was in quite a senior role, and as I was the last senior person to join that company, unfortunately, I was the first to kind of leave that company. So what ended up happening is I had a very short 18-month stint with a great outfit in London where I was heading up their European and UK data division. But ultimately found that, after that first lockdown, I was surplus to requirements. So for the first time in my career, I found myself in a position where I was kind of looking for new roles unexpectedly. And I think that so happened to be a period of time where everyone was still panicking. The world had literally just come out of the first lockdown. No one wanted to see anyone. No one wanted to take anyone on board. So I found myself in a really tough situation where it was like, right, now I've got to find quite a senior role. Are there these roles out there, and are people willing to hire? And in short, the few interviews I did have, it was really tough. I had 6 or 7 stage interviews with 2 outfits where I actually knew the owners, because I know quite a lot of these people who work in my space. I've kind of met them at meetups, and you kind of know who your competition are. And unfortunately, it didn't transpire into anything. And I think the need to set their own business up was kind of founded from that need of, I need to earn money. I need to do something to pay for the mortgage and all of the other things which come with life. And I think that's how the business was actually ultimately born.
Did the pandemic affect your business at all?
Yeah, I think anyone trying to start a business in a global pandemic and a recession, it's a tough old time out there. And I'd like to meet that person who turns around and says, actually, it was really easy, because it's not really easy. I think when there's so much uncertainty and fear in the market, it's very difficult for companies to, especially in the sector I work in, it's difficult for companies to invest in new areas, take people on board. So immediately you've got that obstacle of everything was put on hold. So as soon as the pandemic first hit, when March 2020, the whole world kind of grounded to a halt, and everyone really didn't know what those next few months were going to look like. And I think the idea of embarking on your big data project or your big infrastructure cloud project or any of these sorts of things probably wasn't the main priority for a lot of clients. So it just so happened that was a period of time where I was coming out to launch my own business. So yeah, it definitely affected me. And I think initially there are a lot of conversations around, well, what are you looking to do? Every client, every company I spoke to had grand plans, but unfortunately those grand plans kind of were put on hold until people knew a bit more about how the world was going to look like, and what coming out of lockdown might look like. So yeah, definitely it had a real impact on my ability to not only get new business on board, get clients, but ultimately place people, because people just simply weren't hiring at that period.
But funny enough, you told me that you've been going from strength to strength recently, right?
Okay, so last year actually ultimately 2021 ended up being my best year ever in recruitment, which seems really funny to say, because that was not something I would have thought of probably 18-20 months ago when I started the business in 2020, but it's funny how things work out. And I think it's a combination of things. I've been really lucky that I've been able to get in with some clients who I've known and I've worked with for a number of years, and I've been able to build upon that trust and relationship I've already had with them. But then also I found new clients in new areas, new markets where I never potentially worked before, and actually found that they've been great. I've been able to find good people, and so everything's just fallen into place, and it's ultimately led to it being a great year for the business, and put me in a really good position for this year.
What's the competition like in your niche, and what do you do to stand out from the competition?
Right, so recruitment is a heavily saturated industry market. IT recruitment is literally the heaviest, most saturated of those markets. I think probably finance is the only other one which draws a parallel. So I remember seeing some crazy stat when I was running big teams in London of there being something like 25,000 recruiters just doing IT within London or are based in London. So the competition is rife. There are a lot of people out there competing in the same markets. Now, if you're going after the hot ticket stuff, which is things like cloud-based services, if you're going after data, so it could be machine learning, data science, that's really important for clients, because everyone is looking at their systems, are looking at their ability to save money, and if they can incorporate those sorts of technologies and practices, then they're going to do it. So when you're operating in that kind of space, rest assured there's going to be a lot of other recruiters who are also jumping on that bandwagon and trying to capitalise on that kind of market need. It has been quite interesting, lots of people operating, but then I think it's no different than any of the other sectors I've worked in within IT for the past 17 years. Technology changes, things change, businesses adapt, and I think what you need to do is just be that agile type of person where you can respond accordingly, and just make sure that what you do positions yourself as someone where clients will want to work with you. So yeah, lots of competition out there, but it's no real different than how it's been for the last 17 years of me working in that space.
What particular aspects of IT do you focus on?
So it varies. So it varies from like software developers, who could be .NET developers, they could be Java developers, they could be software architects, technical architects, to actual data science, so people who are doing machine learning, building these complex kind of algorithms which will help companies be able to digest their information and data in a way which will help them make more informed decisions moving forward. That latter part there of the data science is a particular area I've focused on personally and with my teams before in London for the last couple of years. So it's one I know quite intimately, and I've got a good network of people and clients across that particular sector.
Okay. If somebody wanted to start their own recruitment agency, would you recommend they come from a certain background where they have a lot of experience and really sort of find their niche? Or
I think in recruitment, I've got a lot of friends who I've grown up with, who we all started off as trainees back in 2005, 2006, and we all grew up and went up the career ladder and became managers and then directors, and in a couple of cases we became MDs of quite large successful agencies, and they've now gone on to open up their own agencies where they've replicated that. I think in all of those instances, those people who I know who have been successful are ones who have gone after a particular sector. So they've tried not to be a jack of all trades, but rather they tried to be a real specialist in a particular sector and just try to become the very best in that sector and offer the best service to clients and candidates, so that they will continually be that kind of agency clients and candidates will want to come back to and work with. So absolutely, if you're going out there to try and set something up, I would try and say focus on something where ideally you've got a background in it, because that will help you get off the mark quicker. But if you can focus on something quite specialist, then it just gives you that added USP, so you're not just calling up clients and trying to be that jack of all trades, because rest assured there's probably 100,000 other agencies trying to do that. If you're going out there and you can actually offer something a little bit more specialist, a little bit more different, but then you can back that up by saying, well, look, here is my track record of being successful in this field, and this is what my clients and candidates think and say about me, then I think that just gives you that little added edge, which will hopefully get you into that first client. And then once you do a good job for that client, you can then use that to then propel into other clients. It's certainly something I've done. I've stuck to areas I know, and as a result of that, I've been able to pick up clients and get business on quite quickly.
Do you have plans to expand?
Do I have plans to expand? If you would have asked me when I first set this business up, I think at that time, I don't know, I just wanted to basically have a business where I could earn money and have something where it made me happy, I made my clients and candidates happy. And I think at that point, it was all about just making sure that I could have a happy life and not have to stress about money and stress about anything else. I think as I started to get into the business and I started to get new clients and I started to do those first couple of big deals, then I think the cogs start turning. You think back to your previous experience of where you may have opened up offices or opened up businesses, because that's what I've done before in the past on several occasions, and I've grown those into bigger businesses. You start to think, well, can I replicate this? Can I do this again? And then you start to kind of like rejigging your initial plan and think, well, actually, if I get 6 people here to do that and I get some people on these markets, what could the business look like? I think as I've now grown into the business more, I've actually realised that, do you know what, I'm at an age, I'm 38 years old, I've just turned 38. I don't know if I necessarily want that. And actually, I don't know if that's necessarily going to make me happy. And I think for me, having been in this industry and having this as a career for 17 years, I guess you could say I'm a bit of a veteran. I've kind of done my time. The idea of then trying to be the next, hot ticket recruitment agency in the tech space, I don't know. I know there's a lot of companies out there who do a really great job. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily got that ambition or that passion to want to replicate that for myself. I think what I'd rather do is focus on what I do at the moment and just do the best possible job I can, so that clients and candidates will always think about me in a positive light and will always want to work with me. I think that's the most important thing for me. So yeah, it's gone. It's been a bit of a roller coaster of emotions of, can we do this again, or would I like to do that? But I think ultimately, as I've matured and grown into the business, we're now at a point where I'm quite happy where I am. And I think what I'd rather do is just expand upon the network of clients I've got and just continue to improve that level of service and make it even better. So that, when clients are hiring or when candidates are looking, they're not thinking about, I'm going to go to this person or that company. It really is, I'm going to come to Matt at Centres, because I know that in him I will get a good, decent service. So I think that's the most important thing for me right now.
How do you build trust as a small and relatively new agency? So
I think throughout my career, I've always looked at, why have I been successful, or why have my teams who have worked for me been successful? And I think it comes down to a number of things, but I think being authentic goes a long way, being transparent to the point where clients can trust in you. Because the thing is, in sales, I'm in IT recruitment, but the reality is, it is a sales job. We are here to place people into companies and we get paid a commission as a result of that. There is the preconception that, you are just looking for that next commission check. You're not interested in the needs of the client or the candidate. You just want to basically place someone and then move on to the next one. But actually, the way I've kind of led my life and my career is being transparent and authentic and genuine with both those clients and candidates, so that they know that they can trust in me. They know that if they're speaking to me, the stuff I tell them, whether it's about the state of the market or about the salaries or day rates on offer or what's hot ticket at the moment, they trust that, I don't have an agenda there. I'm genuinely telling them this information to help them in their job search. Similarly, if you're a client and you're looking for a particular skill set, I'd like to think that the consultative advice I give is one where the clients can take that information away from them and think, well, actually, that's really helpful information that will help shape our hiring process or potentially change our plans in how we hire people, because actually our original plan might not be as effective as what Matt's kind of recommended there. So I think when I started Centis Up, I tried to kind of take those values with me and make sure that when I engage with clients or candidates, they had that similar experience that, do you know what, it was authentic, it was genuine, I am transparent, I generally am here to offer advice as much as I can, because actually one of the things I enjoy most about this job is, and this might sound a little bit sad or corny or cheesy, but I like placing people into jobs, and I like to know that I've made a positive impact on someone's life. And actually when I look back on all of the placements I've since done, since I've set this company up, I can genuinely say that not a single person has left a job I placed them in the time I've had this business. Every single person I've spoken to has moved into a job which has been better for their career, and I think 9 out of 10 of the people I've placed have actually had a pay rise or match what they're on. So I've positively impacted a number of different people's lives, and I know for a fact that these clients, when they come back to me and they ask me, can I find someone similar, their experience is one where they're very happy with what I've supplied, and that ultimately makes me happy. So I think, going back to the original question of how do you build trust, I think it is, opening yourself up so that people can see that you are the genuine real deal. And I think, being able to listen and deliver upon what you're saying you're going to do is really, really important, and not being that kind of recruitment agency, IT agency who over-promises and under-deliver, but actually someone who you can take a brief and you can go away and you can deliver it, and you can place the right people and minimise the stress for your clients as much as possible, so that they feel that, do you know what, if they have another role in the future, they can come back to you in the knowledge that you will help place good people with them.
What advice would you give to somebody who maybe wants to start their own agency?
I think just if I could offer any advice to starting out a new business, is have a plan. That goes without saying of having a plan, but write down specifically what you want to achieve. So when I set this business up, it wasn't because I necessarily wanted to go solo and have my own recruitment agency. It was just because it was during a period of time where it was extremely difficult to find a job at the level I wanted. So actually I diverted back to what I knew and what I'd been in for the last 17 years. But when I did that, I had a very clear plan of what I wanted to achieve. So what markets did I want to go into? How could I prospect for new business? How could I generate enough revenue to be able to hit those targets? I had very clear targets, revenue targets in place of what I needed to achieve over the course of that year and going into year 2. Now, as the business matured and as we started to get clients on board, that plan did change slightly in terms of, was I going to hire new people, was I not going to hire new people? But ultimately, the plan was very much there in place of, this is what I've set my stall out to be, and this is ultimately how I'm going to make this successful. So I cannot emphasize the need to have a very clear structured plan of what you want your business to look like and how you think you're going to achieve that. Other things, and these are basic kind of business things because I've never run my own businesses, try to have a space where you can go and work where you are free from distractions. Because when I set this company up, we had just come out of the first lockdown. I know that the world was working from home at that time. People were working from their kitchen table or working in the spare bedroom, but I actually went the extra mile of trying to find an office space where I could come somewhere. It was my private own world where I could leave the house and I guess try to have that sort of element of I'm going somewhere to work, because I'd always lived or either worked in London for a long period of time. My escape was my commute on the tube, go into an office, seeing other people. I felt it was really important for me that if this was going to be real, I had the opportunity to do that. So I know that might not appeal to everyone, and I know that some people might not have that opportunity to do that, but for me, having that kind of space where I could go to was really, really important. And then I think the other thing is just try to keep your costs down as much as possible. I think there is a tendency when you set a new business up is to try and make it all shiny and a finished article from day one. So you go out and buy a fancy website from a company, you go and spend X amount of money on all of this software, this CRM and all of these sorts of things. Whereas actually, they are important, but it will come with time. I think the most important thing is being able to generate money. Once you can start getting revenue into the business, then you can start using that money, spending that money in those particular areas, but building the business up organically, not trying to run before you can walk. And I think I learned a lot from that, I had a very clear plan of the areas, data, digital, cloud, of what I wanted to go into. I'd obviously worked for big agencies in London where they were doing extremely well, and there was that tendency of thinking, well, I want that, but the reality is I didn't have £50,000 to spend on a website. I probably had a couple of grand at most, if even that. So you've got to manage your expectations accordingly. But the reality is having a fancy website, having all of these sorts of things will only get you so far. I think ultimately in the sector, in the business I work in, it is your ability to deliver good people which matters, and being a company or a person who a client and candidate will want to work with. If you can focus on that and getting that right, then everything else will fall into place. I do question, I wonder how many people have actually gone onto my LinkedIn or my website. I have it there and it is important to me, but I do wonder how many people actually are interested in that, or are they more interested in what you can actually offer, and are you good, and can you deliver on what you say? So I think just as anyone's starting out on the business, really focus on that, whether it's an IT business, whether it's you're selling cakes or sausage rolls and coffees down the road, really focus on, well, how can you make yourself the best example of what you're trying to do? And is that trying to deliver the best customer service? Is it trying to do something innovative? But if you really focus on that, keep your costs down, don't overstretch from day one, then hopefully, if you've got the right mindset to be successful and you've got the right plan there in place, hopefully everything else should fall into place.